put this up. 7-minute mark. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're going to try this take two. We had a
Thank
little bit
you.
of technical difficulty. It's all good. So welcome to the Card Diary by Hobbyist Thompson. I'm your host, Denny Cards. This is going to be episode 55 because I know that episode 54 was talking with a repacker, wonderful guest, Jonathan from Roto Bricks and Roto Box. So I know this one's going to be episode 55 because what I wanted to do with this interview, with this recording, is post it up as soon as it's done because repacks are such a hot topic in the
Right.
hobby right now, and so I wanted it to be timely. So today we have Matt. He is the president and owner of USB, which stands for Ultimate Sports Breaks. And he is from, I can say this, right? Ogden,
Yeah.
Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Based out of Ogden, Utah. USB has been around for a couple of years now, right?
Right.
And before I ask him to kind of explain how he started the company and who he started with and the commonality that they all have,
Right.
I wanted to say thank you for your time. Thank you for the value you bring to the hobby, and welcome to the show.
No, I appreciate you reaching out, and excited to get this going, and hopefully answer some questions that a lot of people have.
Absolutely. The Instagram audience never disappoints. They always have some really
Right.
good questions.
Right.
So before we get to kind of like the story, and you can talk about your hobby journey and all that too. I did this thing called the Meet the Grader series where I talked to some grading companies about the grading space and how they do things, and people really enjoyed it. I don't think that I'm going to be doing the same here, meaning I'm not going to be doing multiple interviews with multiple repackers. I had one with Roto today, and I think that's going to be it. But I really did want to get another perspective, right? Because no one person represents an entire space anywhere in the hobby.
No, not at
And
all.
so I really look forward to kind of hearing from you. And the more you're able to kind of share, I think the more people will really be able to understand. So having said that, before we get to kind of like I kind of have called it the comp to table, like farm to table, but like going from buying to packing to shipping. Could you kind of tell us about yourself and your hobby journey and how USB came to begin?
Yeah, I mean, I've collected sports cards my entire life. I started when I was a kid back in 1999. I think that was like the Eric Crouch, Cade McNown, Dante Culpepper. Like my
Yeah.
PC at that time was Cade McNown. I
Oh.
kept seeing him pop up, up all over the different products, and so he was my guy, back then. And then I think I was getting into high school, or it was like middle school or high school, but sports were just getting a little bit busier to where I wasn't collecting as much.
Mm-hmm.
I just so happened to skip the year of 2000 during Tom Brady's rookie year when
Mm-hmm.
the 2000 product just was not expensive and Tom Brady
Mm-hmm.
was not who you're looking for. And then I got
Mm-hmm.
back into it in 2001, 2002, and
Mm.
so I skipped over the most important year of them all. And so dove into 2005 a little bit, but yeah, I mean, as a kid, you just collect, and but then as I got older, got into college and graduated from college, got a job. That's when you start getting your adult money,
Mm-hmm.
and and social media started to kick in with Facebook and YouTube. Cards Infinity. I don't know if you've ever heard
Yeah.
of them. They're one of the OG, probably one of the first YouTube breakers.
Yes.
You buy a box, and it was very strange on how they did it back then compared to like nowadays, where they would record it on their camcorder and then post it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they were a very honest group, and still today they are. But I hit like one of my biggest cards. I hit it was like a 6 like card booklet where like each letter spelled out magic, and each letter was a
Oh,
superfractor. Each letter was signed by magic. So it spelled out
wow.
magic, and it was signed by each one. And I was hooked from then on out. I just loved, I was, waiting for live streams and for, YouTube videos to get posted. And so I just really loved that avenue. And, paying attention to it more, I found, companies like Hip Parade and Super Break that were, coming onto the scene. And I was surrounded by cards at home, and I just kind of compared apples to apples and said, I think I can make one of these, with cards that I have, from winning cards on, through Razes or pulling cards from breaks, whatever it might be. And, got creative and created a product, I would say about 4 years ago. It was called Epic Sports Breaks.
Okay.
And, then we, you know, made an adjustment and, developed Ultimate Sports Breaks. And so, and funny how it kind of came upon us. I played college football
Mm-hmm.
at San Jose State, and I replaced a senior long snapper whose name is Grant. And I saw him in a Facebook group in sports cards, and I messaged him. I hadn't talked to him in 10 years.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, what are you doing in this group? Are you into sports cards? He's like, yeah, I'm into sports cards. I was like, well, me too. And he was like, well, what do you do? And I explained him about the repack, and he was like, boom, I got a group that, is really big on, breaking on whatnot right now. And, would love to introduce your product to them, see if it's something that they're interested in. We sent out a couple cases. I just absolutely blew up, and the rest was kind of history to where we were able to grow. And my first employee that I hired was once I was done playing college football, I got into training long snappers, and
Mm-hmm.
so I still do to this day, not as much. That was mine. That's something that like I'm very passionate about, that I do want to get back into at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Once we're comfortable here, but I trained long snappers for about 8 years. While still doing cards, but one of my snappers, his name was Wyatt, who I trained in high school, and he went on to play at football at Hawaii. I called him and was just checking up on him, seeing what he was doing. And he said that he just graduated, was thinking about moving back to California or Tennessee or Texas to find a job. And I told him about, what we're doing with repacks in the sports card world, and said, do you want to move out to Utah? And 2 weeks later, he was on a one-way ticket with 3 bags and, moved out here. And so, it's definitely like a little triangle of, long snappers, here
Wow.
with Ultimate Sports Breaks. And so, so that's how our, kind of core team started, and, we've grown since, and, hired some younger, guys that are here now locally that, can help us out with the, day-to-day operation.
That
So
is awesome. So out of those 3 bags, I imagine 2 of them were like full of slabs and cards, and then the other one was like clothes.
Wyatt knows everything about sports, didn't know a thing about sports cards,
Oh wow.
which is
So
what I love about sports cards.
mm-hmm.
It's like anybody can get into, sports cards. It's just having that general understanding on, one, paying attention to sports,
Mm-hmm.
and trends, players, the different things that are just going on, and, in your day-to-day sports card life. And, but just kind of comparing it to, like a stock market, and
Right.
being able to identify values. Like anybody can do it. You just have to be willing to put in the work to gain that knowledge.
Yeah, and you
So,
definitely have to understand price points and the hierarchy, right? I mean, like
oh, 100%.
when I came into the ultra modern world, like I didn't, I collected, 2 periods of my life, pre 2000s, and then like the mid to late 2000s, and then it was like kind of a pre Panini period or era,
Right.
and I didn't know about so which how it went, right? Like Prism, Select, Optic, Mosaic. Like
Right.
to me, I'm just like, oh, okay, like that looks shiny and pretty and cool, but
Right.
there is a hierarchy, at least with regards to price points. Of course, if people love Mosaic, then they can go for it. But
Right.
yeah, I definitely had a learning curve, and I didn't even own a slab until like last year.
Right.
Grading was not a thing for me back when we were kids, right? I mean,
Right.
that just people graded, I guess, like coins or something, but not cards to my understanding. So um the fact that all 3 of you are long snappers and you have like this, you know it must be wild. I mean, you were the apprentice, or you replaced Grant, but you're the president and owner of
Right.
USBs. So it's
Right.
almost like Eli Manning having like 2 Super Bowl rings, and like Peyton,
Right. Right. No, for
um
sure.
no, but that's really cool. So all 3 of you long snappers, that's a really hard position. We're not going to turn this into a long snapper or football podcast,
Just
but that is a very difficult. You have to
it's
snap and block right away.
right, and it's got to be a specific location and specific speed. for long snappers, and it's very attention to detail. We compare it to golf. It's one motion. It's one dynamic to doing it, but you have to be able to adjust to body types and shapes and sizes and different levels, and so it's definitely unique, but you'll never hear about it unless the snapper messes up, and
Right.
all of a sudden it causes chaos in the game, or a turnover. Then you're
Right.
like, who just did that? Everyone assumes that it's the center, of the offense, but if you can go a full season without having your name called because of a bad snap, then you did your job. So
I just realized my wife's best friend, her nephew, is like in high school and is a long snapper. I might have to like ask you offline, but he is potentially going to be a D1 scholarship athlete with
nice.
long snapping, but
Yep.
he's like a junior, so I don't know, but
Let's put it this way: there's
yeah.
a snapper. He played at Azusa Pacific. It was Division II college. He played tight end. He played baseball. Like, he was your all God athlete. Just very 6'4", just 235 pounds. He looks like a professional tight end.
Yeah.
I started working with him like his sophomore, junior year of college on long snapping.
Yeah.
He has been on like 5 different teams. He was on the Rams team when they went to the Super Bowl. I went to the Super Bowl that year when they won, and now he's with the Packers. But it's like, it was really cool on like, he's just snapping in the NFL, making what, $1 million a year to snap a football.
Nice.
But he's dealing with a lot of high level athletes that are trying to make his job very difficult.
Oh no, absolutely.
So.
And yeah, so well, yeah. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions, but I'll ask them offline. One, I do have to ask because I think the listeners might like this. So, what is the worst conditions in long snapping? Is it rain, or is it snow, or is it something completely else?
I'm gonna say snow.
Or winds, yeah, like
Well,
windy
it's just
conditions.
it can rain, but the temperature might not be that cold. But like when you're talking with cold
Yeah.
and snow and ice,
Yeah, ice. Yeah.
where it's like if
Icy.
it's fresh snow,
Uh-huh.
it's fun.
Oh man.
But if it's been snowing like all morning and you're playing that afternoon,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
now you're
yeah.
playing with slush, but then you're talking like frozen footballs, and
Oh
it's
man.
it's a
No.
different it's a different dynamic. But I like it's something that like people can work through just because it just makes them focus a little bit more.
Gotcha.
They just have to like really emphasize like certain pieces of the snap, But it, I played in both snow and rain. I played in slush. I played in like light snow. I'll take light snow over any of those.
Gotcha.
When it's like fresh snow, like you just started the game and it just started snowing, like people have fun. But
Oh
if it's been
man,
snowing that whole morning,
that
I do not want to play that day.
who hasn't played some football in the snow with your friends as a kid? Like that's like the best feeling is like, I mean, especially if it's like a snow day, but like
If I was like
I love
if I was an offensive lineman, or something like that, linebacker, like I
yeah.
would play in any condition
Oh
possible.
my gosh.
But if I'm a quarterback or a receiver, forget about it.
So it's funny how earlier you're like adulting, you have discretionary income, so you get to spend it. I mean, adulting is so hard, right? And it's like I love
Right.
that. Like I used to love snow. Like when I was a kid, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kids, right? You just love snow, and then you get older, and then you have responsibilities. Then you have to like dig out your car. You have to dig out the sidewalk. You have to
Right.
do the and you're trying not to fall because if you fall on ice, especially as you're older, you're gonna really hurt yourself as opposed to when you're a kid and you just pick yourself right back up. And so thank goodness as an adult, the one thing we have to look forward to if you're in the hobby is you can enjoy your discretionary income on cards.
Right, exactly.
Oh my goodness. So I know we got to get into repacks. Thank you for taking us down that road a little bit.
Yep.
And so this whole idea that I've had, right? It helps me keep on track, comp to table. It's like the buying, the packing, then the shipping, and like who
Mm-hmm.
you ship to. I wanted to kind of maybe spend like, I don't know, I'm really bad at keeping time on this podcast, but like maybe like 15 minutes on each or something like that.
Yeah.
The biggest, again, the reason I'm even doing this and the reason it's a hot topic is, a very prominent social media influencer, Chad Blesnick, C Bles, talked about repacks, and I made a little bit of content about it saying good repackers are good for the hobby, bad ones are bad for the hobby. And what makes for good and bad, I'll definitely ask you. But in my opinion, it was just transparency, integrity, value, things like that.
Right.
And so the buying though is what really got people on that video. He was talking about how, these repackers buy 95% and he can't buy anything lower than that, and it's really tough. And like they clear out inventory and dealers, completely, and all this stuff. So I think buying is the thing that really got a lot of traction or discussion on it. So can you kind of talk to us about how y'all buy for USB?
Well, I just had recently watched that video of Blaze, and I thought it was just funny and ironic that his brother made a similar video of "We hate repacks, but come buy ours." So it's like you kind of have to say how it is. You got one guy that's against it, and one guy that's
Right.
against others, but please come pay money for ours. So at the end of the day, it's their company that's selling repacks. So I think his videos are irrelevant. And I love Blaz. I love what they do. I think they're really good for the hobby, but
Hmm.
I think they're more so just upset that there's more competition of
Hmm.
buying cards at card shows.
Right.
That's all it is. It
Okay.
has nothing to do with the dynamic. Like, it's he had made a couple comments about buying cards at, he wants to go buy cards at 80, 85%.
Yeah.
Well, what is he going to do with that card? He's going to go sell it at 95, 100,
Right.
110%.
Right.
So it's like he's essentially a repacker as well, but it's more
Hmm.
like live, at a shop or whatever it is. And so, but like, he's a flipper, in that aspect. And so it's just
Mm.
literally the same exact thing. They make their own repack, same exact thing. They're buying cards, and they're putting in a repack. And so, but there's a lot of like, people that are upset that there's more buyers at card shows. You tell me one vendor who's selling shows that's upset about that. You know what I mean? Like they're showing up to shows and people are coming up and buying their entire, you know, showcase.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Please come buy my cards.
Yeah.
If you're a vendor at a show and you're able to sell out, 50 to 78, 100% of your showcase, that's a great day, for that vendor. So, but
Yeah.
like, the thing with vendors is like there's so many different kinds of vendors at these shows.
Talk to
And
us about that.
and I think you like the different types of vendors are, one, people who are buying in bulk, collections from people that don't go to shows.
Hmm.
Or they might be a local car. I come across local card shops that set up as vendors, but they have like a local shop, somewhere else where they're
Hmm.
buying, locally at, around town. And
Hmm.
so you have vendors who are, bulk graders where they're buying cards raw, they're sending them in for bulk grading. They
Hmm.
come in and, they have hundreds of slabs in their showcase. And so, but then you also have other vendors that you can definitely tell right out the gate, like if you can tell by their prices on what type of vendor that they are. If they're already like 120, 130% over, you know, overpriced, and the first thing that they say is, I'll give you 20% off, sticker price. Then you do that math, and you're just like, that's right at 100% comps.
Right.
So it's like those guys can be a little bit challenging to work with, but I mean they do things, a specific way. No harm, no foul. We just move on.
Yeah.
And so, um, but I mean, you can also sit at a table and you get people, your everyday buyers on TikTok, whatnot, IG, Facebook, that pull cards from, Break, or pull cards from, hobby boxes, their local card shop or their local card shop. And they'd walk up to the table and it's like, hey, I'm interested in selling some cards. You know, are you guys buying? Yes, we're buying. Let me look at your cards. Hey, it's valued at $100. I can offer you like $75 or
Hmm.
$80.
Okay.
Perfect. Absolutely. And so, but I think, it's, there are people that are upset. I've had vendors, who do sell cards to us. They are saying like it's a lot more challenging and a lot more competitive to buy cards at shows because, there's more repacks coming out coming out on the stage to where they have to buy stronger. We have to buy
Hmm.
stronger.
Yeah.
When people come and fly to Utah and sell cards to us, we're buying at 100%.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a convenience that we don't have to go to shows, to buy these cards. Like, these vendors are traveling all over the country to
Yeah.
buy cards. We'll buy them at 100% comps because we got to compensate for their time, their travel, whatever it might be. But like, that's a reward that they get for traveling to Nashville over for 3 or 4 days away from their families.
Right.
And they book a flight, they got to get a rental car, they got to do the whole 9 yards just to bring us cards. We will pay 100%. But obviously, when we, as a team, when we go to card shows, yeah, we're going to be buying how everybody else buys, which is at your 80, 85, 90%. We might be buying a little bit better, but we also explain to vendors and customers, like, hey, like, we flew out to be out here for the weekend, from Utah. We have to cover that cost as well. And so, but it's when people are just very visibly upset that there's more repacks out there, they're only upset because they're not able to. There's more of a challenge and
Mm.
more of a competition for them to get what they want. At the end of the day, you just have to be there earlier. You have to work faster.
Mm.
You just have to be smarter. It's called competition for a reason. You know what I mean? And so it just is what it is. But repackers, like, we are buying stronger because at the end of the day, we just need the cards. From a
Hmm.
repack standpoint. And so, but yeah.
Awesome. Talking about working, getting there earlier, working faster, working, harder. I love, comps, we know stands for, like, comparison
Mhm.
points for other cards, but comps, that's how you spell competition, right? Competition.
Right.
Um, I do not have any pricing guide app people as sponsors, but we all know the tools people use, right? 130
Yep.
point card ladder,
Yep.
alt.
All. Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, and, eBay sold, and almost everyone just drives it off that, which is interesting because, right? Because when you sell on eBay, you have that percentage taken off. If it's 12 to 14%, I mean, you, as a seller, you're kind of right out of the gate. You can't
Right.
get more than 88%, right? So,
Right.
or 86%. So, buying at 75, 80%. I mean, we are talking like maybe sometimes double digit margins, but sometimes single digit margins, right?
Right.
For yourself, or
Yeah, but I mean, like, we've purchased cards too off, like, My Slabs, which is
oh
a
yeah, yeah, right, right.
significantly different, price points. You can buy sports cards off burbanksportscards.com.
Uh-huh.
They, it's, that, buying off their website versus, eBay, two different, animals, two different dynamics. And so there's different ways to kind of, swing that,
Yeah,
for sure. But, like, I think there's a lot of social media influencers that are opening up Shopify. So
that's right.
there's different ways that, like, I think Talon Sports Cards. I just bought, like, 5 or 6 cards off of him.
Oh, nice.
He's a big social media influencer, and I just he
Mm-hmm.
had a bunch of cards on his Shopify TikTok shop. They're encouraging people to list their slabs on there as well. The different fees on PWCC
Yep.
and
The auction houses. Yeah.
Golden, they're all different. And so, so from, like, when it comes to, like, that perspective, because I have challenged, like, vendors before, and was like, dude, you can go sell the card, on eBay and take a 15%, fee. And he just straight up said, like, he just, like, looked around and was like, are we at a show or are we on eBay? Like, do you want the card or not? And was like,
Uh,
touche, man. I hear what you're
the
saying.
back and forth.
It,
Yep.
go, it,
That.
it goes both ways, and so
Yep.
that's just where you just gotta eliminate, just forget the. You just have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
You know?
Gotta love card show talk, right? I mean, local, regional, national. It's like
Right,
the same conversations happening everywhere, and it's like you got the seller sides, like the vendors know what to say, or they
right.
learn what to say. The buyers, they know what to say, and I love it. It's a dance, though.
It
I love the
is.
negotiation part.
It is.
So, When it comes to comps, again, buying at certain comps, like some of
Mhm.
these, right? They do create comparison points. eBay, definitely, of course, that's like the number one. But if you go to 130 point, and other places that derive that scrape the data off eBay, they PWCC, Golden, they do turn into comps. But you know, buying from of course shows, people aren't getting any comps created. Shopify, I imagine, isn't
Right.
either. My Slabs isn't. TikTok Shop isn't. And so it's funny, I haven't done a podcast read. I've created a read for a sponsor, so I'll just give a shout
Mhm.
out to my card post. But they also
Mhm.
have a platform that's an online marketplace where things that are
Right.
transacted, bought, sold, and traded, they are not um, turned into comparison points. So,
Right.
um, but so yeah, I'll talk offline as to why maybe
Right.
USB. There's some really nice cards up in my card post, but like the whole comps, like how are you? There's so many different ways to do comps. That the
Right.
easiest and laziest way, in my opinion, is just last sale. But then there's also people who do the average of the last three, or it depends on when the sales were, right? Because there are some cards that are commodity cards that transact
Right.
almost daily or weekly,
Right.
and then some you just don't see pop up often at all.
So my thing is I try and go off of I look at a lot of different things. I look at, the average. I look at trends, from how long ago they were versus like now,
Hmm.
versus how the player is playing. Say if a card is $225 comps and the guy's trying to sell for $250.
Hmm.
But the card hadn't sold for 2 months, because it's out of 10,
Hmm.
and but the player is on the up and coming, and he's performing really well. There's some things that like I can be like, all right, I see like where you're going with that. Like, if it were to sell for that, that specific time frame, it might be different now. It's
Hmm.
just not. Um, but we're very simple, like with buying when it's like when you scan a card on alt, like if someone pulls a card and they go to comp it, we try and buy that card based off what that customer is going to see.
Okay.
So like say if like you bought into a break out of a USB, you hit a very common, card, a Jalen Hurts Mosaic rookie auto BGS 9.5.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's more than enough on a pop report,
Yeah.
for that to where you can just scan it, on alt or look it up on, card ladder, and you can find a pretty recent comp,
Yeah.
to where it's like that's the number that I want to buy at, to where these customers are gonna, see when they look it up themselves. Because there's a lot of
Right.
people that, there's different various ways of people how they break our product. There's stash and pass, to where they decide whether they want to keep the card or let it move on to the next customer.
Hmm.
And so they're trying to decide quickly on what they want, so they go immediately to card ladder or whatever it is. And so we just try and buy it like what they're gonna see. And every card that we buy it at a specific price point, to where we can explain it to each individual customer. And you're talking just hundreds of
Right.
cards that are here, thousands of cards. And but each one we have an explanation as to like why we bought it,
Hmm.
how we bought it, and why we bought it, and why it's at its price point. And so but I mean there's you know but we also try and be really smart with buying as well. Just in regards to, there's some vendors that try and manipulate
Hmm.
certain prices. I'm a big like advocate on eBay auctions,
Hmm.
not what is it, PWCC auctions or golden auctions. Here's a really good card, Jamar Chase, Optic the rookies like auto. I think it's
Hmm.
out of 99.
Okay.
Really common card. If there's a comp on golden auctions
Hmm.
for that little of a card, it's like a $200 card.
Hmm.
That card does not belong on golden auctions. So it might sell, for 150 bucks or 200 bucks, but you put it on eBay to where it's more of like your everyday buyer, to where like that card is probably gonna be worth a little bit more, or whatever it might be. And so, that's where we try and compare, especially like the different like auction sites that are out there,
Okay.
and
Can,
so because
can you
those comps do show up.
Can I ask you, what do you mean by that card doesn't belong in Golden though?
So Golden has presented itself as a very like high end, prestigious like card, like a card that I just showed you a little bit ago, a LeBron James Bowman Chrome refractor. This used to be like
Yes.
a $50,000 card back in
Oh,
there were comps back in 2021.
right.
$50,000 card.
Yeah.
And so like but that's what Golden definitely advertised themselves to be,
I
to
see what you mean
where
now.
like you had to apply to be a buyer.
I
You have
see.
to have specific qualifications to be a buyer. But it's like if you're doing that, you're probably you probably got a pretty significant bankroll to where a $200 card is not going to be on your radar to buy.
Got it. Got
You
it.
know what I
All right.
mean?
I do appreciate you saying that because
Yeah.
it's interesting because when I submit to PSA, they say, "Do you want to vault directly and sell directly to Golden?" So, I thought that might have changed, but also, perceptions are important, and the
Well,
type of buyers that attracts.
they're definitely pushing to be able to sell some of these smaller, be a bigger like auction house.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I just don't see the eBay auction. I just don't see like the auction. I would say the auction. I guess I don't know, the different auction like outlets that are out there.
Hmm.
I don't see eBay ever losing its power for like
Right.
the little guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the best marketplace in the world. For those types of cards.
Right. Right.
And so
Can you share another kind of like thing that vendors might do to try to manipulate, not just like a repacker, but just a buyer, like just something to help the listeners out here?
I've seen vendors with multiples of the same card. I've seen the auctions be at like low 100s, and then
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden there's a couple buy it nows at like $200 or
Mhm.
whatever it might be. I can list this card right now. If I have 10 of these,
Mhm.
I can list this card on eBay. Look at my buddy next door and be like, "Hey, buy this, on eBay for $200." I bought 6 of them for $100 each. Boom. Now I can say that my other 5 are
Oh,
worth $200.
you're talking about, I mean, that's shill bidding, right?
It's
Without
it's
intent to
it's
pay.
it's no. You can still spend the $200 to buy
Okay.
that one card, but now I'm going to sell my other 6 that I bought for
Oh,
$100.
got it.
You know
Got
what I
it.
mean? Like I've
Yeah.
seen that because like it's mass graded. Not there's it hasn't I haven't seen it a lot, but that's something that's very sneaky of like where like
Mm.
I explain, I'm like, listen, there's 6 auctions that ended at 100 to $125. There's one
Yeah.
buy it now at $200 that I'm not gonna fall for.
I see.
I will buy these at $120 because that's what the auctions were, but I'm
Mhm.
not going for that one buy it now because then I can because there's people that I kid you not will put cards up like this.
Oh.
Did you lose my voice?
Yeah, just for a second, but you're back.
Okay, perfect. But there's,
It's the fault.
I,
It's like a false comp.
exactly. But it's like, what if I'm just like someone that just wants, I just need money,
Yeah.
So it's like, I've been holding on to this, $500 Jalen Hurts for
Uh-huh.
4 months.
Uh-huh.
My car just broke down. I just need $300 to fix it. I'm going to put this on eBay and
Yeah.
sell it for $300. Does
Mm.
that mean
The
that the
other.
car's now worth $300? No, that's where like I really look at like eBay auctions more so than I do buy it now.
Okay.
From that perspective.
All
And so,
right.
but yeah, there's some sneaky ones of people that do masquerading to where it happens a little more so in like Facebook groups.
Mm.
So that's just something that where people have like mass quantity of one card. They'll go buy that one
Bad,
card for a high price, and then they'll
bad
they'll
actors. Tisk
they'll go
tisk.
they'll go
Why do
razz
people
them
have to do
for
all
that
this?
price. It's crazy. It's
Ay,
crazy.
ay,
You will
ay.
never know.
Do you showed a lot of slabs on screen. Do you also buy raw for USB or is it only slabs?
So if it's raw, we usually buy raw.
Oh,
That are
that's raw. I'm sorry. That is a raw one.
yeah,
The
no,
the
but
Jamar
I mean
Chase auto.
we love like the panini seals, with the
Encased
redemption.
redemptions. Got it. Got it.
But I
Got it.
mean, I've raw autos, kabooms, downtowns, like we love all that stuff.
Okay.
The big thing is that you have to watch out for is the card condition.
Yeah.
We did have one just recently. It was a Tyrese Maxey. Contenders, I think red or blue auto,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked fine to us. But when you put on the customer got it, wanted to get it graded, put it
Yeah.
underneath the light, and saw that there's some scratches, but like you take it out of the light and you can't see it, and so but that doesn't mean that those cards are not worth anything. Cards are
Right. Right.
worth there's raw value all day long, and so but like when it comes to like a Mosaic Genesis raw,
Yeah.
we don't generally buy that. I'd rather have it as PSA 9, than have it as a raw. But like
Got it.
autos, kabooms, downtowns, all day long we're buying those.
Right.
So
Man, those scratches were probably from a jealous James Harden, just on his way out, just scratching up all over
I
the
know. Well,
Tyrese
it's like you
Maxey.
see videos of like these athletes like when they're signing on card,
Yeah.
it they don't treat them nicely. I say
Mm.
this all the time that baseball players are more careful than like basketball players and football players. If you
I I see very few initial or sloppy or bad baseball player autos. I feel like the bad example autos are really primarily from football and baseball.
I just don't know if it's like something that is more more so in like contracts, or if there's a like a representative,
Mhm.
with these guys through Tops, or Fanatics or whatever Tops is right now versus
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
Panini.
Well,
It's
not
where
just
like
that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I totally could see the Panini tops difference. But also, like in baseball, you have to humble yourself. You go through the minor leagues. It's that romantic version. The romantic, the
they
bus
they
ride.
still they still
Yeah,
have to earn it.
you have to earn it. So I think maybe when they get into the show, it's like much more appreciated, and they really do appreciate the fans. You see the great fan service by the baseball players, and it's they come out and sign before games, or like near the dugout, and then you have the almost instant millionaires in basketball where they're just like, in AAU
Right.
ball, they're immediately given the keys to the kingdom, and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, be humble, but think about your fans. And it's like Zion was
Right.
a celebrity before he even touched court and Duke.
You're right.
So I don't know. Just I
Yeah.
think about that stuff a lot.
No, for sure. For sure.
So we're talking. So the slabs you just showed. I didn't see any baseball. Would you say football is like your number one most popular sport for your repack
Oh yeah. Football is
product?
your year round, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
like the easiest for new breakers, existing breakers
Yeah.
to, catch the attention of your everyday collector, but also
Mm-hmm.
new collectors.
Okay.
It's just the easiest to experience,
Yeah.
from a breaker and a collector standpoint. Basketball is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball's very different,
Okay.
to where, values. I swear by it. I talked to you about this the other day that
Mm-hmm.
baseball has more flash and more quality value than I
Mm-hmm.
think football and basketball does. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the hardest product, for a lot of people to sell. But like once we, there's there are a few breakers that have tried like our multi-sport,
Yeah.
and they are just completely floored. There's like, holy crap, like how come we haven't done multi-sport this whole time? And
I see.
it's because it's more of like the conservative, like safe route of making sure that they can, sell to their
Yeah.
customers.
Right. Right.
But then they get baseball, and there's like, how did you get, Ronald Acuna, Mike Trout, and Vladimir Guerrero or Julio Rodriguez in the same case? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, well, Ronald Acuna autos are 100 to 150 bucks versus Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Like
Mm.
you can't get their autos like
Yeah.
for 100 150 bucks.
Right.
And so it's just the difference in value, but like people appreciate it when like a Ronald Acuna auto comes out.
No. Yeah.
Mike
Nice.
Trout autos are 250 bucks now. You know, it's it's crazy. The dude's then he's obviously not his prime time, but it's still Mike Trout.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy.
So when it comes to your product line, or your SKUs, the
Mhm.
SKUs, just to kind of nudge you along a little bit, because we did talk beforehand, which was a great chat. You said that you guys are about to launch a new SKU, right?
Oh yeah, no, we're
Pokemon, Charizard
yep.
autos.
Charizard autos. Yeah, we're getting into Pokemon. Getting ready to launch it. We're trying to really. finesse, the little details on how we want to do that, the different
Mm-hmm.
price points.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to try it out with one of our main customers, 238 cards. They just started
Mm-hmm.
breaking, Pokemon as well, and
Mm-hmm.
their customers love it.
Got
And
it.
so, but I love Pokemon from 1999 when it first came out. For some
Mm-hmm.
reason, I didn't want to go buy the first edition packs back in the day when they're like $5 or $10, and
Yeah.
I could only imagine how many Charizard hollows.
Oh God, I
Been,
can't. Let's not
you
talk
know,
about it.
I know it's so,
Oh my gosh.
but there's such a huge like market, with Pokemon in itself. But like even like sports card collectors, we all have kids.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, she loves Mewtwo.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
like I bought her a few like cheap, Mewtwo cards, but she loves them. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
talking to customers, it's like man, if you guys bring on Pokemon repacks, like we're gonna be in trouble because we have to buy them. So it's
Right.
because it's more so for like their kids. But like Pokemon, it's you even go to shows and slabs are just flying
Yeah.
like you wouldn't believe. And so
Oh yeah.
but
Totally.
I mean like but our big thing is I'm learning about Pokemon,
Right.
but we have a team here that I had for about a month. I had no idea that they do as much about Pokemon as they do.
Mm-hmm.
To where like I brought it up and it's just like a whole different like atmosphere within the office to where
Yeah.
everyone was like, "You got to get this, you got to get that, like this and that." People love this, and so it was
Yeah.
really cool to get that
There's
transition. I'm like, well, that's what we needed. We just needed knowledge behind it, and
right.
and I'm starting to learn too on the different variations, and like we have a couple PSA 7s and PSA 8s, which I hate in sports cards.
Uh-huh.
It was like we had a PSA 7, I think it was either Pikachu or Charizard, but it was about $240.
Because it was
A, P,
from yeah.
PSA 10 of that same card is like $6,500.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, holy crap. It's like you relate that to like sports cards.
Yeah.
A PSA 7 of this is worth like $200 because
Right.
it's that damage versus a
Yeah.
PSA 10, which is only $600. Like,
That's
why
the
is it?
Jalen Hurts 9.5 BGS that you're showing on camera.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
Exactly. So,
that's the wild thing is, I'm definitely more sports card, but I'm Denny cards and my kids love Pokemon and they love
right.
TCG and I remember playing Magic the Gathering. So I remember, I don't discriminate with cards, but it is interesting how Pokemon, there's like sports and, like the older, retired players, like we have nostalgia towards them, but these players, we see them uh, not just bad court performance, but off court behavior, right? I mean, just talking about Giddy and Franco, like, you
Right.
know, Charizard's not going to disappoint you from a performance standpoint on or off the
No.
court.
Right.
So, I think it is a pretty, but then you don't get the highs, right? I mean, you don't have Charizard winning the Super Bowl, right? Or like winning the MVP. So, but that's really interesting. I appreciate you saying that. You did mention a breaker though, so 238 not a sponsor. This none of these folks are sponsors. But I did talk to you again. Great chat before we started recording. Um, I was thinking about getting to what I'm about to say near the end because it's about shipping and who you ship to and all this and
Mhm.
that. But just bringing up the breaker, I did want to ask you, for those of you who are not familiar, but some listeners may be, and you said it was okay for us to talk about this, and to the extent
Yeah.
that you wanted to, you all were the exclusive repacker for Backyard Breaks,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
that now they have flamethrowers and nebulas and all that, but there was a time when they relied solely on USB to
Mhm.
provide their repacks.
Right.
So, did you want to kind of speak on that?
Yeah. I mean, that's when we started. USB was on a very much smaller scale, and then when I met Grant, he's the one that introduced me to Backyard Breaks, and sent them a couple cases for them to test out. They loved it, and we launched like our first phase of X amount of boxes or cases. And then the demand was like, hey, we're selling out too fast, we need more. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And we got to the point where like we're listening to their demand, and we got the proper funding to be able to support that, and and we got a call before national, and the owner had said like, hey, we need the owner said, hey, we need over 100 cases a week. Can you guys provide that?
Mm.
Boom. Okay, let's talk with the team and see how we can grow to that. And we got everything that we needed, getting ready to go to nationals. Like that Friday before nationals, we got a call say, hey, I know we just got over negotiations. We just got over discussing our demand, and what we need from you guys. But, we're making a business decision and we're going to go into a different direction. Can't go really into a lot of details. And, we'll give you guys, a few months to kind of adjust and find new customers and the whole night. Like we're exclusive. Like we're, we put a stop to everyone that contacted us that wanted our product this whole entire time. We probably had over 1,000 emails of people that wanted our product, and we just couldn't do it. It's like if you wanted to get it, I'd buy it through Backyard. So we were just flying and had a lot of success to where they just shut the door on us because they wanted to go into a different direction, which now you can see is flamethrowers, and they're doing a great job with those. And from a I guess like an actual like business perspective, it obviously puts a lot of it it hurt,
Yeah.
and we had to, we had just bought a house, and so like we were just in our house for about like a month, and to know like we have no business period was terrifying, but it was at the end of the day, it was business is business. People are going to do what they got to do, that's best for their business. And that's what Backyard did, and so it's like, I had a lot of great conversations, and there was nothing personal behind it. It's just pure business decision for them to do, go the direction that they went. And so, but I mean, we made adjustments to our product and changed the dynamic on how breakers can sell our product to where that opened up because we only had one product and one price point, period. So it's like we knew exactly how to do it at a mass volume to where like now we have anywhere from like bronze lights, to where we have infinities. You're talking, breakers are selling our bronze lights for $120 per card versus an infinity where people are selling for $3,200 a card. But it's like there's so many different levels that we have now just because we're listening and adjusting to like what our current customers want and need to be able to provide that for their customers. And so, but it was definitely a big learning curve. I mean, we were only in business for like less than a year, at that point to where you can't go in buying a Rolls Royce the second you graduate from high school. You got to earn your way up, and so nothing's going to be pretty for the long term. You just got to be able to adjust. And so yeah.
Unless you're best friends with Ferris Bueller, I guess.
For sure.
No, but I really appreciate you sharing that personal story side because like you said, like it's just business. But I mean, you buy a house. I mean, you're implicating family and like, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. So I really feel for you. But I'm so glad you guys rebounded so well with that.
I mean, it was honestly the best thing that could have happened to us. And so. We thought it was the worst thing. It was the best thing. It was probably the darkest 6 months of my life, but it's like, because there's a lot of things that like Wyatt literally had just moved here from Hawaii,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so it's like he moved from Hawaii to Utah,
Well, that
and
that's
all of a
quite
sudden,
the. Not a lot of people do that. I imagine. I imagine it's the other way.
no, I mean,
Nothing against you.
he
Nothing
just
against Utah.
trusted my vision and, and just said, screw it, let's do it. And,
Wow. Leap of faith. I mean, really.
dude, I love him to death for doing that.
Yeah.
And I respect him for doing that. And
If you're long snapper, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I know I was terrified that after his 1 year lease was up at his apartment that he was going to be like,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right, I'm going back. I'm going somewhere else. Like, but he's like, nope. Like, I see like where this is going. Like, we're just going over like unnecessary hurdles of like,
Yeah.
People wanting to make their own repack. Because we are a third party.
Yeah.
There's not very many third party repacks out there. And so that's what makes us different. And so, but there's growing pains, but but we're doing well now.
All right, I'm gonna say one little joke, and then we'll get into the third party repacker and the
Love
rule
it.
of you and I have talked about the 10 box case with 343 and all that.
Right.
Um, I can just picture you and Wyatt, like, just about the house. You got the nice yard in the back, and you guys are just like long snapping it to each other, just talking about the business and like, man, what are we gonna do? And like, I could just see you guys just kind of like just chilling and bonding, and that's just that's awesome.
If you catch us going to a show together and there's a football in the trunk, I make him snap one before we head in.
There you
It's
go.
hilarious.
I love it. I love it. So, how important to you is it that, like, you guys are a third party repacker versus like people who do it in house? And I know people who do it in house can do it with integrity,
Right.
transparency, and value. But like how do you see yourself in the in the stream, the ecosystem of the hobby?
So our big thing is, we're very attention to detail on what's going on in the sports world and the sports card market. You just brought up Josh Giddey. You brought up Wander Franco.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, like, we had a lot of cards with both those players to where the second that something like that happens, they are pulled and they are put off to the side until further notice. And so I think that's what makes us different. Hopefully other repackers out there are doing the same. There's a lot of people that like can't take a loss. And I think that's the biggest thing that repackers have to understand is like, be okay with taking a loss and just work harder to gain it back.
Mm-hmm.
And like Trey Lance, we probably spent like
Oh boy.
$15,000 on. I went during preseason. I went and bought $15,000 of as many RPAs and autos and slaps of Trey Lance that I could possibly get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Dude breaks his leg, and we just had to send him off to consignment and get what we get, and we don't throw a fit. And so but there's a lot of people that just can't fathom taking that loss, and I get it, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, we're putting on a show, and we're putting on, like, we pay attention to all of our breakers live streams. We try and interact with their customers. We pay attention to what their customers are saying, what they're requesting. So it's like a lot of people don't do that. At least from a third party perspective, like they don't do that. They don't have time for it. We do. Because that's just kind of like part of who we are. And so, but I think that's what makes us different is that we definitely pay attention to that, to where there's other breakers out there that make their own repack, and you can tell that it's their own personal cards that they have laying around, and they're just trying to kind of piece something together, to where, you shouldn't see Trey Lance pop up, in today's repacks. It's just unnecessary, until something happens to Dak or whatever, and Trey Lance is the savior of the Cowboys season. Then boom, let's revamp Trey Lance. So, but like, you can tell because there's a difference between like breakers who are putting in their own PC cards into their own repacks versus those who are going out buying cards for their repacks.
Yeah, got it.
Two different dynamics.
So you talked about bronze and infinity. So you have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and then infinity,
titanium, and infinity.
Okay, like 6 maybe if the math is right.
There's
so
two maths.
each of those price points going from 120 to what do my notes say?
Like
3,200. Oh my gosh! Wow, for one card. Wow.
That's great.
This is the high end. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So
here's your infinity.
There you go. LeBron rookie refractor. BGS. What is it? 9.5.
BGS 9.5. This back in 2022. You can look the comps up on this card. They used to be like $50,000-$60,000. Now it's like more or less than like $9,000 right now.
Yeah. And that's going into your infinity.
It's going to go into our infinity. It will be a headliner. It's just cool to see these cards. But like, I just read. Well, right before we hopped on, I looked at a single hobby box of this. This year. Like $19,000 for a hobby box, and you get these and I think it's one refractor, like one in every like 4 boxes or something like that. And so it's like
you're not pulling that. Yeah.
No,
let's just be real. You're not pulling that. And, so each of those SKUs that you have 10 box cases, and you
Mhm.
seal them up in your production facility. The people
Mhm.
who receive them have no clue what's in what.
No.
You guys, when we were talking, you mentioned kind of like a 33% or 343.
Right.
So out of those 10 boxes in a case, if
Yep.
I, if I'm explaining, then you kind of tell me where the holes are if I'm incorrect.
Right.
4 of those cards out of those 10 cards are going to be right at around the price point that people
Yeah.
buy into that for.
Yeah. So we follow like
Then
a.
3
Oh, go
then
ahead. Sorry.
3 are going to be above comps, and then 3 are going to be below comps. So you are going to have like 3 out of 10 people kind of not be happy, but again,
Mhm.
we can talk about floors and ceilings and checklists and all that, but like you
Right.
don't have people who are getting completely skunked. Then you have 4 people who are going to be relatively happy, and maybe they don't like that player and all that, or but if they buy into that sport, they know that they're going to buy, like, again, let's be real, for football, it's going to be a quarterback.
Right.
And then you're going to have 3 people out of those 10 on the opposite end where they're thrilled because, again, if it's a $3,200 box and you're getting a $10,000 LeBron or
Right.
$9,000 LeBron, you're
Right.
thrilled.
Right.
So what am I? Did I say anything incorrect there, or what did you
No,
want
I
to add to that?
mean the biggest thing with repacks is transparency on the floors and the ceilings. And it really does depend on like the style that the breakers are breaking at.
Hmm.
So like the 33% rule, that's as if you got 10 different people that are buying them as personals,
Hmm.
whether it's for hit draft or stash and pass or just as personals.
Hmm.
But you go in knowing that your odds are like if like so let's say silver. Our silver level, our floors are $100.
Hmm.
We are as strict as can be that the floor cards in that case are $100, not
Okay.
$95, not $90.
Hmm.
It's $100.
And
If we
what's the
make that,
price point? What's the price point for silver?
breakers are selling those for $300
Okay.
per card, and
Okay.
so
300.
but then like the ceiling could be, and you have to be, I would say, kind of fluctuate with when it comes to ceilings. Our big thing is, we've put in six, seven, $800, ceiling cards and those types of levels.
Mm.
But it's not going to guarantee to where we have to kind of set like a minimum like ceiling, or like where we say it's 500 plus, or 600 plus, whatever it might be, But there's not to say that there's going to be a $600 card in there,
Okay.
And so, but it's all about that transparency of like where people like understand like the floors are always going to be whatever we say the floors are.
Hmm.
If they're not, please bring it to our attention and we will fix it. You
Okay.
know, and like we'll explain. Like there's times where we put in $100 card, it got shipped, and over on like a Friday, the breaker didn't break it until Monday, and on like that Sunday, that card comped at one of those cards comped at like $80 when you opened it on Monday.
Hmm.
It was brought to our attention, and like we showed, it was like, hey, like we'll take care of it, for now, but like just understand, like, when it went out on that Friday, like that was the comp. It changed over the weekend, through an auction, and you didn't break it until Monday. Like stuff like that can happen. But
Okay.
like that's where like, but like what I just explained to you right there, like every single card that we buy
Hmm.
has a purpose, has a story,
Hmm.
and like what we bought it at, why we bought it at that, just that way we have an explanation. And so, but transparency is so key, and for repacks, and just ensuring like people are like they know what they're buying into,
Hmm.
and but more importantly, just kind of understanding on how breakers are breaking. There's some breakers that put one or two of the boxes and they do divisional breaks, or they
Hmm.
do PYT. And
Yeah.
so, I love those because, there's only 10 cases per card. So they have to do a PYT for 32 teams for the entire case. 22, 22 different teams, aren't hitting,
All right.
but they're paying a small fraction of the cost, but it's like buying into anything else,
Yeah.
but at least like those who win are, automatically winning at that point, even if you hit a floor card. If at $100, then the buy-in for that was substantially less.
Hmm.
So it really depends on who's breaking it and how they're breaking it. And so,
Okay.
but
Well, thank you for that. So I did have a follow up with regards to kind of like that one example, and I don't know if it's a live example, and I know you're not going to talk about the buyer and the card, or I mean the card
mhm,
doesn't matter, but when it comes to doing it right by the customer or the buyer, and you're like,
Mhm.
you know, we'll handle it or we'll take care of the customer. Like, I mean, could you kind of talk about the range of things that you guys would do, have done?
Yeah, I mean, we've had customers, ship us the cards back, and we give them a card back, and we ship them out a card that, hey, what's your PC, and let's go into their PC and
Mm,
we'll present them a card, and we'll just swap it out that way,
okay,
and so
that's
because
fine.
like when we buy a card, at a show or on eBay or whatever it might be,
Hmm.
if that, say if we don't put it in for 3 or 4 or 5 days upon receiving it,
Hmm.
if the comps are different, but the day that we put it into our product, say
Yeah,
if it's less, we're gonna mark it down for less. It just is
got
what
it.
it is.
Right, right.
If it's more, I can't tell you how many times that we've sent out product to where it was worth more than what we bought it at, but like that's not our concern to change it to go up and benefit
Okay.
us. It sounds silly from like a bit like any person that owns a business would be like, what are you doing? Like, if it changes to $100 more on a comp, like you should change it, but like that's not really our style.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So
Well, I just I did this yesterday, and I'm trying my very best not to kind of like harken back to what my past podcast episode was about, and I'm trying my
mhm,
best to kind of keep you all very like separate.
mhm,
Um, but I know that yesterday I mentioned I've never bought into a USB break. I did have a USB card, and that was like from buying it from someone who got it from
right.
y'all.
Mhm.
So, and it's like a Kevin Durant auto, and it's vaulted in Arena Club for myself right now.
Right.
Graded it with BGS, and it's like it's a really nice card. And I don't know what they bought it, bronze, silver, and all that stuff, but I do like your, the stick. It was a raw card. Now that I think about it, it had the USB sticker on the top
Yep.
in a one touch, and but yeah, I if I ever do buy, I guess what I want to say was the warning with the caveat is, yeah, I did not ask for anything in return for you being on this pod, and vice versa.
Right.
We're talking about USB, but it's not like you guys are sponsoring or anything like that. That
Right.
said, so I just wanted to kind of make that clear because some people think it's like pay to play with podcasts, and it's not.
No.
That said, if I ever do buy into a USB repack, and I am not happy, which I doubt happens, will happen. But if it does, I'm here to let you know, Matt. My PC is Michael Jordan PMGs. Just that's it.
Right. Oh yeah, we got
Yeah,
plenty of those sitting
yeah, yeah. That's the
laying
only
around.
card that I actually collect.
Yeah. No, that's a proper swap. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
So, thank you so much for talking about the packing. I know we got to like move it along and get to kind of like the questions from Instagram, and we're already at like past the hour mark. We talked about buying, we talked about packing. We did touch on shipping with, like you said, you mentioned the breaker there. Shout out to 238.
Hmm.
But like, who are your buyers? Who are your breakers? Like, what platform are they breaking on? Like, how do you ship? Like, can you kind of talk about the back end of repacks?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's supplies are definitely a thing you have to stay on top of. When it comes to boxes, the design, packs if you have packs or the foam or whatever it might be, shrink wrapping. We used to shrink wrap with an air gun, like a heat
Mm,
gun, in our garage, and
wow.
like we would do like 20 cases, but you're talking 10 cards per head, 200 cards. You have to like by hand, shrink wrap each one.
Wow.
We made an investment. We call it Big Red. It's a big shrink wrap machine, and you just turn it on. You just literally just throw the boxes in there, and it just
Mhm.
does its thing and saves us so much time.
Yeah.
But supplies is definitely something that like you definitely have to stay on top of. Every raw card gets a brand new one touch,
Hmm.
and those things are very annoying to stay on top of. But you got to do what you got to do, and like little things like I don't think I have any PSA sleeves, but like even like these like the plastic sleeves for the Beckett's,
Yep.
that's something that you have to buy an unlimited amount of just to protect the slabs. I
Hmm.
hate with a capital H. Anybody that ever has Panini One, Flawless, anything with like an actual manufacturer seal,
Yeah.
please put this in a bag
Yeah.
like instantly. I was like, please don't, you know, keep it out and put it in a box and shuffle it around because those one touches, like
Sucks.
they're irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And I see so many Panini ones, and it's because people are taking them out and they want to like look at the raw condition to see if they're gradable, and there's like, nah, it's not. Let's just put it back on a one touch. But
Mm.
to me, it loses like, I would say like, it doesn't lose value, but it loses like, I don't know. I feel like it loses value. It loses its true image. But yeah, I mean, it's we have vendors that I think we have like 4 different like core vendors that like this is their full-time job. Like they don't do anything else, and they've made they make more money than we do going off buying cards. It's disgusting, and but like how they do it is that's their skill set. That's something that like I think you should bring on vendors. For a podcast and have them discuss it. I tell them all the time. I was like, don't tell me what you bought these cards for. It's going to be gross. I'm going to, be jealous, and I'm going to want to switch roles with you. But like
funny.
it's crazy. I've never seen it before in my life. But we have like a core of like about 4 that they travel to every show every weekend, and if there's multiple shows, they kind of communicate with each other on which shows that they're going to go to.
I see. Would they be upset if you, even for the good ones, you giving them a shout out, or do you think they would want to remain private or
for sure.
silent?
Boosted LA.
Okay.
They're a big vendor of ours. Philly Kirk Cards. It might be Philly Cards. Philly Kirk. He just moved here to Utah. Because he's here every week. He's like,
you have a vendor who moved to Utah. Man, you were like,
he doesn't work for us, nothing. He said like he goes to shows and he flies to Utah every week to sell his cards. So he said, screw it, like instead of flying all over the place, like and then flying home, he's like, I'll just make this home. I mean, when you're young and don't have wife and kids yet, like now's the time to make that decision.
Wow.
And Boosted, they actually just bought a house in Utah as well.
Whoa, you were like, you're doing so much, great things for the Utah real estate.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and so,
So Boosted, Philly Kirk,
he does a really good job. Who else? We have a local guy, father and son here in Utah that they kind of tag team, traveling to shows, Tony and Cooper. And, so yeah, I mean they do a really good job. Cool. The biggest thing for us with vendors, working with them like that is like coming in, meeting us, and come look at our inventory, and ask us and talk to us. Like, what do you guys need? What are you guys looking for? So that way, like when they go to shows, like they kind of know what to look for, and so I think that's probably like a really important aspect of, being a vendor. If you're buying cards, why are you buying cards? I'm buying these for, this repacker or that repacker, and so, I mean, there's a ton of repack, or a ton of companies that do like mass production of repacks that have, their vendors that just truly understand, on what they're looking for, and I think that's really important. And so, because there's a lot of really good repacks out there, there's a lot that are more in-house that, that they're not selling to other companies as a third party,
Gotcha.
And so it's really neat world to be in.
Awesome. So I think I'm gonna have only time for one question from Instagram, and this is the one that I did ask Roto as well. But before we get to that, I did want to get to the topic of checklists. My understanding is that you guys don't do them, or is that incorrect?
No, because we don't create series.
Okay.
And so we are buying and selling our repacks on a week-to-week basis. So everything has a specific value. There's no like set series to where like I know I'm familiar with Roto to where like they create like a specific series. There's other repacks out there that have done that too, where they create like 100 cases.
Yeah.
And but that might take them a couple, 2 to 4 weeks for them to put together. They put together a 100 case series, and then boom, they sell it out as like box or case like 1 of 100 or 56 of 100.
I think the hit parade does the same thing. Yeah,
they do the same thing to where it's like a series to where like at that point like you can grab all those cards that are on that in all those 100 cases, and you can make a checklist. I've seen guys on Whatnot do the same thing to where it's like, hey, we have 80 packs, here's the checklist from the 80 packs are that are going in tonight. So that's more of like an actual like visual, kind of like I think Gold Rush has like a chase like checklist, and so that's really neat. We just our thing is that we just don't have time to, we don't have time to, build out a series and have, cases wait when they could just go out,
Hmm.
to our customers. That's just our business model of, just, whether it's one case or 20, 30 cases, whatever it might be, but, we don't have like a designated, pre-built series.
So thank you for sharing that. And the follow up question I'm about to ask is, the only reason I ask it is not because I disagree with your decisions, and it's your business,
Mhm.
and I'm really happy that that you provide value for customers and the fun chase
Mhm.
element and all that. The reason I asked the following question is because I wonder if some listeners might be thinking the same thing, and maybe they're not. Maybe they're just
Mhm.
driving and just zoned out, and or maybe they just felt
Right.
you know
Right.
but when it comes to the cases, I totally understand you ship them out on a week to week basis. But what
Mhm.
about providing a checklist for just that one case? Like, here are the 10 cards that are in these 10 boxes within this one case.
It's too small of a, I guess, too small of a checklist to
Okay.
where I would say like our breakers would. I mean, I would say it's just too small of a list to where it's not going to really benefit anybody. It's though I think the only person I guess it could benefit is the buyer, but like it's 10 cards. To where it would be different if like if it was like 2 or 3 or 4 cases that we sent out and just be like, hey, out of these 4 cases, like here are your top 10 chasers or whatever of like these four,
Mhm.
or whatever it might be. But like one single case, you know, doing like a list, I would say is just too much of a sample size to where, I
Too
just don't
small
feel
of a
like
sample
I
size.
just,
Okay.
I think it's just too small of a list to,
Okay.
to where it would make sense,
Okay. All right.
but
All right.
like we had customers that ordered like 6 silvers. If they asked like, hey, what are the top 10 hits from these 6 silvers
Uh-huh.
in total?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that,
I
kind
see.
of thing. So
Okay.
I would
All
say
right.
like for something like that, like it would have to come across as a like a breaker request,
Got
not
it. Breakers request.
like
So okay.
well. So here's another great example. It's like say if this was
Jalen Hurts
the
auto. Yep.
say if this was the headliner
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. What if people don't like Jalen Hurts?
Mm.
That's gonna from a breaker standpoint, like people aren't going to buy into it. Now he's going
Got
to
it.
have a harder time selling. I've seen another breaker on Facebook. He posted the top. It was like I think it was 6 cards,
Mm-hmm.
and he posted the top 3 cards in that 6 case card.
Yeah.
Took him 3 days to fill it, and it's because people see like I'm not going to risk my money for cards I'm not interested in.
But is that necessarily a bad thing, though?
It depends on which side you're on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that's where like this whole dynamic and like business from our side, business from the breaker side,
Mm-hmm.
like you're essentially like you might as well just say like, hey, I have a four box case, here are your 4 cards. You might as well
Yeah.
just sell those 4 cards.
Mm-hmm.
But like a repack, it's everything's sealed. Like Panini has a checklist, but like you get a case and they're not going to say, hey, here's what's in this case.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
Fair
this is
enough.
they give you odds of like who you can hit.
Right.
You'll never see almost any of those cards.
Right.
But when you
Okay.
do, like that's great. But like like checklists are cards that exist within that product. But like that's
Mm-hmm.
like you're talking thousands of cases that are built.
True.
You know what I mean? So like, that's a set like series
Yeah.
in a sense. But like you're not going to open up a
And
hobby. You're not going to grab a hobby box from Panini and know exactly what's inside that hobby box.
gotcha. And one last follow up before we get to the one question from Instagram. You at USB currently have um no plans to make a series. You guys are continuing the one.
So there's things that we do want to do. We want to do like a golden ticket series,
Mm,
where it's like, 10 cards or 10 cases or 20 cases, whatever it might be.
mm-hmm.
And, say if we have, something to where you're chasing a card like this
Yeah.
is your
Yeah.
golden ticket chase,
Mm-hmm.
but, in order to qualify for that, you have to pull a golden ticket from. There's one golden ticket in each case. So
Yeah.
whoever hits that golden ticket is now put into a spot for a raffle for that golden ticket chase. So it's like stuff like that we can do, but like, our thing is that we have such a high demand to where it hasn't been requested,
Yeah.
from our customers. Like they just want as much of our product as possible,
Yeah. They like your
because
brands.
they just know that the true value is there,
Right.
And so
Well, hats off to you. Like, congrats with everything you've built. So the question from Instagram, and I'll get you out on this because I know we
no,
are
you're good.
running pretty late here. Thank you so much for your time. I got to ask it because it's such a great question from
Yep.
Pancake Analytics. I'll try to read it as verbatim as possible, but wax prices, all right? So they're increasing across the board. We all
Mhm.
know the price of wax is just, it's like the price of eggs. Just, oh
Right.
my goodness. Wax prices are increasing across the board while the individual product in wax is decreasing. The price point or the in
Mhm.
singles is decreasing at a higher rate. Do you feel, as a repacker, do you feel repacking the product and creating better value for the customer is enabling the card manufacturer to release inferior products? And give you a moment to think about that. I will make a little caveat to say, although I do think it's a good question because it's talking about value and wax prices and singles prices, it is kind of hard to ask you as a repacker,
Mhm.
like to put yourself in the shoes of Panini or
Right.
Fanatics. But to the extent that you're able to answer that question, could do you have some sort of response to it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think at some point Fanatics is gonna create their own repack. If you know, Leaf,
Hmm.
Leaf makes their own, card like Leaf cards,
Hmm.
but they also have like Leaf Best of Basketball, Leaf Best
Yeah.
of Football. Like it is a true repack,
Right.
of what they make. So it's like you can assume that Fanatics at some point is going to do that, and
Mm.
it's how they do that. I have no idea, but like, it's how well did they do that if that's something that they decide to do at some point. But that's where like honors is another good example of like kind of they
Um,
rebuy older cards, have them sign it and serial number the actual cards. That's kind of like an example.
oh no, we totally lost. I did not kick him out. Oh, here he is again. Right, we're about to get to a good part.
There
Oh
you
my goodness. I was
go.
like, Fanatics has cut your mic. You
Right,
left.
no, for sure, yeah, no, they're just like don't talk about it, but no, um,
So yeah,
no,
Panini honors. They rebuy the old cards, they sign it and serial number it.
yep. So you have that aspect. I loved Encased when they were sending them to Becca and they were grading them.
Hmm.
That was kind of a unique value where you can either get an 8.5 or you can get a BGS black label,
Yeah.
and so I think that's where, I think the difference is on how they can kind of, improve like their values. I would say
Hmm.
like for this 2023 year, you're not going to have, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young and who's
Right.
the other one? Will Levis. I think they're those
Anthony
are
Richardson injured. A Rich. Yeah.
well, he's hurt, but I know he's signing with Panini, but like,
Oh, I thought you were just talking about okay. Yeah.
no, but
Sorry.
like, so like those, so right now, like new products coming out and people are just like, well, we're not getting any of these guys, autos. So it's like the
Mm,
value is kind of like backwards in a
okay.
sense,
Right. Right.
but what they're doing is they're getting some of these more veteran players like Patrick Mahomes to sign, more autographs. Joe Burrow's, you're starting to see more veteran football cards come out,
Hmm.
to where I think that's where they're helping with like the actual wax
Yeah. They got
return.
Panini has Tim Duncan signing. Supposedly Wemby's mentor. Right.
Right.
He's like a great San Antonio Spurs center, and
Yep.
it's like I can't even imagine the if they even talk about it at all, but like what how that all transpired, right? Like how
I mean,
intentional
that'd
was
be
that?
awesome. I mean, we've had a couple of Tim Duncan's autos, and it's just like really cool to
R-
see
So
from like
rare,
back in 1999 when he's signing cards and
so
we're
rare.
putting in
Yeah.
like today's like repacks and so. But I think there's definitely ways to like improve it, but like that's
Hmm.
why repacks are the hot topic right now.
Yeah,
It's
they
because we're
are.
able to put in like really cool cards that like you can't pull in 2023 product right now. But I mean,
Hmm.
not to say like the product's you know bad. It's just not a really good on return on investment type of
Hmm.
deal. But I mean, like I would say like the biggest thing with repacks right now is that you're able to put in cards that people are just already looking for, or cards that every slab you're not going to
Hmm.
find a slab card other than in a case, but you're not going to find a BGS 9.5 autograph of Jalen Hurts. You have to pull the card, you have to submit the card, you have to hope that it gets a BGS 9.5.
Right.
You hit a redemption out of a hobby box, you got to redeem it. It takes a long time, but guess what? Boom, now it's here in front of your face. Or you get cards like this that we're able to come across. So let's think about it. Optic downtowns are a case hit.
Right.
So we have not only a case hit of Brandon Moss, but now we have a black label,
Mm,
grade of this card, which is, you want to
amazing.
talk about how hard it is to
Yeah.
reach this level of that card. Guess what? Now it's going into a repack.
Yeah.
So that's where like people have to understand that repacks are good for a lot of different reasons.
Hmm.
Otherwise, like, hey, like, instead of spending, $500 on a pack and potentially hitting a card like this, sure, just go out and spend. I think it was like $1,500, for that. Like, but that's where like
Oh.
that thrill of like buying into repacks, is like there's people that are buying it and they love it for a
Hmm.
specific reason. If you
Hmm.
don't love it, guess what? You're just out buying and not participating in the breaks, and you don't know. There's thousands of people that are out there in this world that aren't participating in breaks. They just buy and collect what they want to collect,
Hmm.
and that's what card collecting is.
Yeah.
It's buying what you want. You don't. People don't have to buy into breaks.
Yeah.
They do it because it's fun. They enjoy it because of the breakers. They enjoy it because it's just different,
Yeah.
they do it because they can, and that's why like, the sports card industry is like thriving right now, just
Hmm.
because people are able to participate in wax breaks, and guess what? Now they go sell to repackers, or vendors, or what sell on eBay. I guarantee 100% of the people that I buy cards from on eBay have no idea that that we're Ultimate Sports. But like, hey, they got to sell their card, and
Hmm.
they got to make their money. And I think
Right.
that's just the hobby experience. And so that's what it boils down to, is the hobby experience. Bought I bought the Bengals. I bought the Bengals, and I hit a Jamar Chase on card auto, and now I'm gonna go on and sell it. Boom! I had a great experience.
Hmm.
But there's too many people that are just overthinking like this whole repack and how it's
Mm.
a negative thing or it's a scam. It's not a scam. It's a business.
Hmm.
It's a scam if people aren't doing it right. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us different, is that we are doing it to the best of our ability. We make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes,
Hmm.
but contact us and let us know. But like,
Hmm.
it's a business. It's a premium is what it is. We're
Yeah.
putting together a premium, and so and people have to also understand too, when you're buying into, you go to a card shop, you get a box of 2023 certified football box for $300, whatever it costs to buy a box as personal. If you get there and your best card is a uh, who Tank Dell, RPA out of 99, super cool card. I can assure you that it's only going to sell for $75.
Hmm.
Are you going to go crying to Panini and be like, hey, I spent $300 on this, I didn't get my money back?
Hmm.
No, they don't think to do that. They just think like, oh, that was a bad box. I'm
Right.
going to buy another box because I'm going to hope that there's an Anthony Richardson 101 in that one.
Tin
Then,
cup. Yeah.
then they pull a Will Anderson linebacker RPA, and they're just like, oh, I got to do it again. Now they're
Do it
$900.
again.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Oh
the big.
yeah. Oh no, we lost him again. That's Fanatics just cutting him out. There he is
There
again,
you go.
Matt.
But
All
yeah,
right.
so I mean,
Fanatics does not want you to talk about any of this,
well,
clearly.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like customers aren't thinking, I'm going to go and complain to Fanatics or Panini,
Right.
for a bad box. They're just like, oh man, I struck out. To
Right,
whereas like
right.
repacks, that people are just like, oh man, like I spent $300 and I only had a $150 card. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna complain because like every repack like should have everyone should get their money back. It wouldn't be a business if that was the case.
It's really interesting. The blame. It's like we never blame. And I'm not saying they should be blamed, but like, yeah, I mean, maybe they should be blamed. Like with Pancake Analytics question with about the inferior product. I mean, when you have a monopoly or monopolistic tendencies or the optics of a monopoly,
Right.
you can do whatever you want. You really can.
Right.
So when a person strikes out, they feel like they swung and missed, but maybe the pitch was like, had tar, or whatever the cheating thing is with baseball. Like maybe the
Right.
pitch was like bad. Maybe it was a bad
Right.
pitch.
Right.
But with repacks, people want to just jump down your throats because they're like, oh, I got to get my money back, and it's not fair. But again,
Right.
it's the element of mystery and surprise and the entertainment value. So that's
Right.
I haven't really bought much into repacks recently, but it's there's definitely something you said about it. And like you said, if it's not for everyone, but for the buyers that do like your product, they really like your product.
Mhm.
And for people who just want to collect their one player, then they can do that too if they want. So
So, so like my PC, I have the most random PC of all time. I have like some like Barry Bonds, and if you ever heard of Peja Stojakovic,
of
and
course, yeah, yeah.
I got those kind of like old school cards, but like my PC right now,
Hmm.
Cam Reddish,
Oh,
but it's like I'm not gonna go buy Atlanta Hawks, his rookie year. I'm not gonna
yeah,
go buy in today's world because he's not even playing for them anymore. I'm just gonna go out and
no,
buy the Cam Reddish cards that I want.
yeah.
And so but like that's where like but that's me as a collector.
Hmm.
But like but there are times like I participate in breaks all the time on
Hmm.
TikTok, and I'll buy into breaks, and I'll support other people that are doing repacks too. And people think that
Yeah.
like there's so much competition. Like there's really, for us as third party, there's only really like two or three like in our field as third party repackers
Hmm.
that are essentially competition. But it's like still like I've shaken hands with Hip Parade. I've
Hmm.
we've set up as a vendor as well, and like they came and bought cards, and like it was they were buying different cards than we were buying, than what we
Right.
were buying. But it's like you know breakers that are making their own repack. Absolutely, dude. I would love to see what you guys put together.
Hmm.
No,
I,
it's just those that like that say like, oh, don't don't buy USB because it sucks.
right,
Buy
right,
buy
right.
our repack. It's like, well, all right,
Reasons.
well now let's see what
Right,
what you got kind of thing. Like now you're
right.
just making it personal, but like at that point, it's like we participate, we support other companies that make their own repack because it's fun.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's fun.
So, I know Fanatics has tried to cut your mic a couple of times. I am gonna get you out really soon because we're having a little bit of technical issues. But two things I want to say. One, and I won't attribute this to you because I've heard it from other folks. But talking about these other breakers who do their own repacks, it's really
Mhm.
interesting that the C Blast video was a kind of like underhanded, not underhanded, but like implicit, implying we a lot of us knew that it was kind of like generally talking about backyard. And my understanding, and I'm not trying to watch someone's pocket, but the hobby, we're all so interested in like the ins and outs, and there's always rumors
Right.
floating around. But I have heard from multiple sources that, yeah, like, yes, it's not their repack, but also it is because, just because you have different corporate structures, but you're also in the same building and this, different
Right.
suite, different addresses, right? Mailing addresses, but it's like the same street address because you're in the same area. So it's all like really interesting that you do have breakers who try to make it seem like they don't make their own repack, but they
Right.
also do. So
Right.
again, I think it does all ultimately always is going to come down to integrity, value, transparency.
I, People are going to do what they want to do, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the biggest picture, which is the quality and the integrity of the product.
Yeah.
But it's like if those guys are continuing to sell, very strongly, and they're selling out on a day-to-day basis,
Hmm.
they're doing it right. At the end of the day, they're doing it right. And so there's multiple. I you can't say that it's their own repack, but it's their own exclusive
It's their
repack.
own
As in,
exclusive.
like,
Yeah.
they're not gonna you're not gonna see that product anywhere else.
Yeah, they're not selling
Yeah.
that to other big breakers off
Right.
net.
It's
Yeah.
more it's in
Right.
house. It's the only place you're gonna get that product,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
so there's a lot more to it, behind the scenes or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, like, if you're pulling good quality cards, like,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely keep doing it, keep crushing it, keep doing it for the good of the hobby.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, it comes down to doing right for your everyday customer. And that's like
Right.
what we strive for. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, we change values, we pull
Mm-hmm.
players because of bad performances or bad perception.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Poole, get him out of there. Clay Thompson, Draymond Green, like, those guys are legends, but it's like, we're not going to do our customers a favor by giving them, Clay Thompson or Draymond Green autos right now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like, our thing is, like, this is this is your everyday, type of card.
The Jamar Chase auto. Yeah.
Yeah,
Redemption.
where you want a customer to be able to pull this
It's
card.
liquid.
You want
Yeah.
people to take it to a show, put it on
Yeah.
eBay, and
Right.
be able to
Right.
sell it. Have a good
Yeah.
experience. That's what we care
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. It's a commodity card. It's liquid, and so you're providing that.
100%.
Um.
100%.
Again, it comes down to, like, the yeah, and let's get Jordan Poole out of DC. He doesn't want to be here
Right, right.
since the day one.
We have some, and he was good when he was
No,
with the Warriors, but now that he's kind of exposed
just
himself, like,
get him out of
we're
here.
just not
Get him
gonna.
out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
We have, again, this is a hobby not for people who have no disposable income. You have to have some, and so the people
Right,
who do have the adult money, we just talked about how it's wonderful to play in the snow when you're a kid, and then when you're an adult, you have to shovel out your car.
right,
The one thing you could maybe look forward to later in that day is you can open up some wax, repacks, buy some singles, do something,
right.
spend some discretionary income into the hobby. So I think maybe that's the way I'll get you out. Thank you so much for appearing. This might have to be two-parter. We've gone over 90 minutes, I think,
Right.
at this
I
point.
can keep going.
We just
I'll
have to
call
have you on another time.
I'll call Uber Eats and have them bring me another
That's hilarious.
Starbucks, and we'll start all over.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you are doing so much for the for the Utah for the Utah businesses and the hobby. But thank you so much, Matt. You've been excellent. Really appreciate all the just transparency and openness that you provided for the listenership. I hope they gained something out of it. So have a wonderful rest of your day.
And I encourage, not only you, but, even, your listeners, if they have more questions,
Mm-hmm.
let's jump back on and, let's answer those questions.
Okay, awesome.
I can sit here all day long and, do the best that we can. And, but same with you. Everybody's trying to learn about repacks and, the positives and the negatives, but it's like, there's questions that are going to arise,
Yeah.
From this,
Right.
alone, which hopefully it's good. Maybe it might be something that, like, we learned that might be, that we could learn from as well,
Okay.
and so, but I definitely encourage, people to just ask us,
Gotcha.
no one's hiding anything. Just ask us, and, we'll be upfront and honest, and, hopefully we can, put some clarity to, this fun industry that we're in. But go buy cards, come sell cards USB.
Awesome.
So,
thank you so much, Matt. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and yeah, we'll definitely chat soon.
Cool, man. Thanks, Denny.
All right, take care.